We're going to go over how to use Performance Monitor. This is a very interesting and powerful program. It's one of the great tools that are built into Windows itself. And this will allow you to monitor different aspects of what's going on your computer. Everything from processor related things to memory to your network connection, you name it. Now right now what we've got going on is just a standard 0 to 100 scale. It's a vertical line graph, and we are monitoring processor time. Now, when you open Performance Monitor, this is basically the default, at least on my computer. I may have made some changes that I don't remember, but for me, this is the default counter. That's what these are called, that comes up. But, you know, honestly, processor time, yeah, that's just not what I want. I'm just not interested in that. So, I'm going to remove that counter. I'm going to click the delete key right here. I'm going to add some more counters, so we're going to add, and as you can see, there are many different categories here. You can see what's going on with the .NET framework on your computer and various aspects of it, browser even. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. As you can see, what we're going to do though is I'm going to go over to Processor Performance, and you know this is a quad-core processor. And we've got 4 cores, and so what I want to do is I want processor frequency. I want to see what each of those cores is running at. Basically, I'm wanting to see just what kind of performance they're getting. So we're going to add all of those, and what I did is I just held down the control key while I clicked each of those. So we're going to add those counters. And let's see here. What else do we want? You know what? Let's go and let's look at our memory. These are in alphabetical order. So that's our memory, or our RAM. And I want to know the available megabytes. Basically, I want to know how much free memory I have that's available to be used or assigned to a task or program or process. So we're going to add that as well. I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, all of my counters are in there. And each one has a different color line, if you will. Makes it real easy to track. Now, the only problem we run into here is take the available megabytes. For instance, we've got 12,000 megabytes. That's about 12 gigs of RAM that are available. Well, there's a problem because our scale only goes up to 100. That's not a problem, however. If we go to our properties and we go over here to graph, you see where it says vertical scale. Right now we get the maximum set to 100. Let's go ahead and increase our maximum so that everything shows up. Let's go ahead and give it about 15K here. So 15 with 3 zeros, 15,000. We're going to leave our minimum where it is. And you can even give it a name if you want. You can show various grids. There are a lot of different properties. What we're going to go over here, though, is we're just kind of going to do an overview of how to use Performance Monitor and give you an idea of its capabilities. We're not going to get into every tiny little detail. You'll have to kind of play around with that and see how everything works for you. But anyways, we're going to drop that down to 15,000. And we'll give it a title. And we'll say this is Lee's Performance Tutorial. How about that? I'm going to apply. And I'm going to say OK. And as you can see, there we go. We've got a nice little pretty title there. And we have now a scale going right up there. So, as you can see, with the different counters, not everything shows up. There are some things that are, unfortunately, with the processor frequency, the problem you run into is they're all, if you look right here, the average, you'll notice it's pretty much the same for all 4 cores. So unfortunately, they're all right along there, and that green line is just the first one on the list, so that's the one that shows up. But they're actually all running right there. But we see our available megabytes there. We see that we're right around that 12.8, and there's our line. Now let's say you added more than one thing and somehow they came up with the same color, or perhaps you wanted to save red. You said, you know what, I'm saving red for when I do my disk stuff. That way I can remember, you know, red line is when I add the counter in for disk processing performance. Let's go ahead and change that, shall we? Let's go back to our properties. You'll see here we can select from this list of colors. And this is like the ugly doo-doo brown color, as I call it. But we're going to select that. I could even choose the scale. If I wanted to bump something up a little bit, if I had something that wasn't fitting within that range, I could increase that scale or even decrease it. If you have something that's just super high and it's just not fitting in your limits, and you don't want to have this 0 to 500,000 scale, that's something you can do there. And we're going to leave it the way it is now. 1.0 works for me. Now, one thing we can do is we can change the width. So I might even go with a thicker line. Now, unfortunately, we can't edit the style if we use anything other than the default width. But as you can see, the style options, little Morse code style available here, dots and dashes and whatnot, and that can kind of help break it up. If you've got a lot of counters in there and you find that maybe you're having trouble keeping track of it all just visually, on top of the color change, you can do a style and or width change. But I'm going to go with the default style, and I'm just going to give it a big old fat thick line there. I'm going to apply, click OK. As you can see, the color changed and the line got a lot thicker for our memory. And the other option now is there are different views that we can have. We can actually change how we want this displayed. See how it says change graph type? Maybe we don't want a vertical graph. Maybe we want a histogram bar. We do basically a bar graph pretty much. And we want to see where everything was at that point in time. The other thing is the report, and this is really nifty. If you just want to cut through all the fancy graphics and you're like, look, just give me the numbers, this is the way to go. Got our cores, got our available megs, and as you can see, it updates in real time. So this is pretty nice. It's also pretty nice. Everything's humming along pretty nice. I've got a few different things going on in the background here besides performance monitor, and it doesn't skip a beat, which is wonderful. So we can check this. We can go back to our line graph. We can view the log data if we had turned on logging. We can even highlight in case you're having trouble seeing one particular thing, one particular graph. So if I went here and I turned on highlighting, you can see how that, and basically if I just leave that on, that highlights whatever I click on. Whatever I click on, whatever counter I select is what becomes quote-unquote highlighted. So that's a nice feature. And there's some copy and paste properties, which is really nice. This is great for being able to insert into, say, maybe a PowerPoint, or maybe you're doing, one of the things you can do is maybe a screen capture. You can use some desktop recording software. But this is really great, especially if you're maybe in an IT department and maybe there's been multiple users complaining about a slowdown on the computers. Well, you could go in there and run performance monitor on a couple of them, save the results, and maybe you can show them to the user and say, look, it's all in your head. It's performing great. Or maybe it's not all in their head. Maybe it is having some performance issues. It's great to show to your boss and to say, look, we need to requisition some upgrades or new equipment. Here's how it's holding up against what they're using. And that way you've got something more than just perception. You've got some raw data here to look at to actually show you what's going on the computer. And that's pretty much it. These logs can be saved by copying and pasting into something. We can print. Obviously, you can't print in real time. These aren't 3D printers. But we can print a log of what happened here. And that's also great just for showing the raw data. So you have those options available to you, and you can even pause. If you said, whoa, wait a minute, I've got too much stuff going on, hold on, and you said, let me freeze the display. Basically, you've kind of paused the counter for a moment, and then you go make some changes, or you close out a program or something, or what have you, and you say, okay, wait a minute, let me go back now. Now I just close out my web browser in the background there, so there's a little tiny bit of fluctuation in the RAM that's being used. I've got something else going on, unfortunately, so it doesn't really. But as you can see, actually the available megabytes kind of went went up there, which is kind of nice. So yeah, we're going up to almost 13K there, so that's pretty cool. That also tells me that Firefox uses up a lot of memory for what I was doing. Okay, and so there we go, guys. That's the gist of it. That is Performance Monitor. Great tool for figuring out what's going on where on your computer and just how well it's performing. I encourage you to check it out, play around with the various options, check out the different counters. Like I said, there's everything from RAM to your processor to aspects of your disk read and write performance. You can even monitor the bandwidth usage. You can monitor what's going on with TCP or UDP. It's a very helpful tool. And like I said, the great thing is that this is built into Windows. This is not a third-party download. If you go to Accessories from your Start menu and then go to System Tools, or you can also just in your Start menu on that little search bar at the bottom, you can just start typing in the word Performance, and this should pop up as one of, if not the only, option. And that is it. That is Performance Monitor for you guys.